straight away we can move into the next question and answer session. And you're invited most cordially to come forward and ask any questions if you please. क्या? हाँ, इसके बाद विषय, please. Sir, you want to say something?
No, Zur, I am asked to introduce the questioners.
That's already have done. Thank you. No, but I have invited one of the guests who is already here. So give him first opportunity. That's all right. And then if you want to read some questions, you can follow them later on.
Introduce your name.
Yes, yes. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إنما يريد الله ليذهبكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Sir, I've come from Karachi on a visit and I'm very glad to be here and I've got an opportunity to ask a few questions and I hope these will be answered and more light will be thrown on them, since such things have not been touched by many of the highly qualified people of Islam, and they have not been able to explain to any member of the public. So I've got a dozen questions as such, but I would like...
How many?
About a dozen questions.
If each of the guests has 12 questions to ask, we have to extend this session by about 30 or 40 times.
Yes, but
the time available.
As I can see a large amount of people around here, I will squeeze to the few questions.
No, you don't know them. I know them.
So my first question is...
Ask one question.
Yes, please.
And then we'll invite the next.
Right, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Then if your turn comes again, then of course you are most welcome.
Right, very well.
Thank you.
So my first and very basic question and very important question is, in Quran they say, Bal huwa Quranun Majid, fi lawhin Mahfooz.
Right.
Will you please explain us what is Lawh Mahfooz?
The word law here in this context is not something made of stone or brick or any material. When God speaks his own language. And in the language of God, materialism is not involved. Whatever God speaks about himself is not material. So number one, this should be understood. There is no such thing as a parchment or a stone tablet on which God had written the Holy Quran, because those who believe in this literally have also a contradiction in their belief, because they also believe that the Holy Quran is eternal and it was not created. So if it was eternal, then you have to believe the coexistence of a law with God, which existed eternally, and who wrote on that. So you should understand that there is no such thing as there being a tablet or some form where Quran is inscribed. Lawh Mahfooz is a system of preservation. And everything that happens in the universe is preserved by a system of memory which God has created, which never fades out. It can diminish but cannot be wiped out. That is why the Holy Quran reminds us that when you appear before me, your skins would speak against you. Now how can skins speak against somebody? They are not provided any tongue. And then the people who will appear before God would say, Ma li hadha al-kitab la yughadiru saghiratan wa la kabira illa ahsaha. What sort of this book is that it does not leave out the minutest thing or the biggest thing, but it has counted and preserved it. So I believe from my study of the Quran that God has a system of preservation of things which always keep their mark. They can be diluted, but once they appear, they can never be wiped out. And as a proof of that, we know the universal temperature of cosmos, which exists from the time of the Big Bang. Around 20 billion years ago it happened, but that the sound still exists and lingers on and on and on. Scientists can recreate it with the help of their instruments, but even if you project the age beyond by 20 million years, they believe that original sound will never be faded out of existence. So Lawh Mahfooz is that some system of preservation in which God's destiny is sort of preserved in a blueprint form. Because if He is everlasting, then the blueprint of creation which emanates from Him should also exist. But we can't understand beyond our five senses. And the Quran is talking of something beyond. Only by way of similarities it makes us understand a little bit of that. Thank you. Next question, please.
Next is Mr. Norman Allen from Southfield.
Salam. Assalamualaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
So thank you for the courtesy of inviting your neighbours to this gathering. It's a privilege to be here, and may I make a comment that we admire the courtesy and example of your members who gather here week by week. My question concerns the relationship between the Muslim world and the turmoil we see there, increasing fundamentalism, Muslim versus Muslim, Muslim versus Jew, Muslim versus Christian, which is a great sadness in the light of the Prophet's concern for peace. And you demonstrably pursue the cause of peace in the Ahmadiyya Brotherhood. So what is the position of the Ahmadiyya with regard to the fundamentalist violence that we see today in Egypt, in Bosnia, in Algeria, and many other places around the world? I'd be grateful for your views, sir.
Thank you. I think your question is leading to a situation which does not exist as it appears to the Western viewers. Fundamentalism is attributed to Islam in the West. And by fundamentalism, what is understood is all but fundamentalism. Fundamentalism means one returns to one's sources and foundations. Literally it means that. But those who preach violence in the name of religion, whatever their name be, they do not draw their authority from their sources, but they draw their authority from the medieval behavior of their forefathers who happen to be in between the source and the present time. That is why they have no authority whatsoever to quote from Quran, from Hadith, from the very conduct of Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This afternoon, a delegation from Sweden and England gathered together to ask me some questions, and this was one of those. So I reminded them that if you went about judging Christianity from the behavior of Christians of a certain time, of a cross-section of their history, let's, for example, return to Spain, our acquisition. Nobody would dare to raise his voice against their conduct by saying it is non-Christian. And nobody would believe if anybody raised their voice. But now looking back in the afterlight of history, we know it was most un-Christian-like behavior which they pursued in the name of Christianity. So a behavior, a conduct pattern of a people who belong to a religion is not an authentic representation of that religion. For that, you must go to the sources of the religion, and particularly the understanding of that religion by the founder prophet of that religion. So anything which stands contradictory to the conduct of Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, cannot be taken as Christian, however much the Christians follow a certain pattern. So also is the case with the Muslims. At different stages of history, they have been behaving differently. In different contexts, they have been behaving differently. But to understand Islam, let's return to the origin, to its nascent period, when the Holy Prophet brought the message and showed the example of how it should be acted upon. There is no question, no semblance of the fundamentalism which you see today. So I believe that it is not just the fault of the Muslims alone who unfortunately exploit Islam for the sake of political ends in their own countries and in their relation to certain other countries. Because this message is picked up by the West and further distorted and used as a means of scaring the West against Islam. While there are wise people among them who know the history, who know the realities of things, who know that there is no danger possible from the world of Islam to the world of Christianity. Because, number one, there is neither a world of Islam nor a world of Christianity. What you found practiced there or here is neither Islam nor Christianity. So it is a misnomer to call these things and the counters as religious entities. There is no such thing. Islam as practiced at the time of Hazrat Muhammad ﷺ in its moral concept is so different from the Islam practiced today among the Muslim countries that you can talk of antipodes being similar, but you can't find any similarity between the practices of today and the practices of the 1400 years ago. Christianity as practiced in the Western world has no bearing to the Christianity practiced by Jesus Christ and his disciples. So let's remove this misnomer and distortion of things and see the reality what it is. The danger to Islam or the world of Islam from the Muslims is a confined danger which sometimes spills out to the non-Islamic world. But the real danger the Muslims face is from the Muslims themselves. The real danger that Islam confronts is from Islam, its misrepresented Islam itself. So what is the holy war? When did they fight a holy war against England or France or Germany or America? Show me one instance in the recent history of, let's say, a few hundred years ago. Nothing happened. But you see, war between Iraq and Iran, the atrocious war which, with the loss of millions of lives on either side, on both sides. And this war of attrition you witness in Afghanistan, all in the name of Islam. Who suffers? The Muslims themselves, the image of Islam. And that distorted, injured image is resurrected by the Western media to pose a sense or awareness of danger among the Western people that these are our adversaries. We can't sleep in peace until we do something about them. While this is the time for you to sleep in peace. They're involved with each other. They fight each other in the name of the sacred name of Islam. What are they doing to you? They are only helping you economically by selling their oil to the Western countries in exchange for deadly weapons to be used against themselves. You see, all the Western media reporting is so exaggerated and so unrelated to realities that when the heat of the moment is over, then you begin to see and laugh at your own reactions. I'm quite sure you couldn't have forgotten the extra long canon of Iraq. Day in and day out you saw on television the scenes of that cannon which never ended, started from here and there, and how it was put together, and how long it can shoot. And the West as if was trembling under the threat of that cannon. The biggest joke of the modern history. What that cannon meant against the modern weapons, against rocketry. And the atom bomb, which was never invented, was already christened, because it was the Christians who gave that name, as Muslim bomb, Muslim atomic bomb. Yet it was not born. And what about the Russian arsenal of atomic weapons? Were they ever referred to as atheist bombs? What about the atomic bombs of Israel? Were they ever referred to as Jewish bombs? And what about the atom bombs of England and America and all the Christian world? No one calls them a Christian bomb. So I admit our own fault. What's happening on the soil of Muslims is very misleading, unfortunately. But you pick it up in the West and create a havoc which does not exist. And this is how a distance is kept between the world of Islam and world of Christianity. This is suicidal, I believe. All efforts should be made to bring them together, to remove misunderstandings, because history is an ongoing process. All is not done and finished. Times may change. Russia may rise as a threat once again, or Europe may get divided once again in a different form. Not that Germany would have to conquer the entire Europe before it thinks of invading the rest of the world, but already the Europe is divided, is put together, united, and the leadership of Germany is emerging without any question. So politics is a liquid thing. History is an ongoing process. And a time may come when you would need the help of the Muslims and cooperation of the Muslims for the sake of peace, for the sake of the world. So it's high time you revised your policies, your attitude, and the role of your media in creating false images about the realities of the world. And then, of course, I condemn fundamentalism, but not because it is fundamentalism. One of the misnomers so often applied in the modern times. Thank you.
Hazul, next questioner is Sheila from Birmingham.
Hello.
So,
I'm Sheila from Birmingham. I'm a Christian brought up in the Church of England faith. As a little girl, I always believed that Jesus was the Son of God. Taught in our Holy Creed at the Church of England Church, we say, born of the Virgin Mary. So biologically, I've always believed that Jesus was the Son of God. I believe, you believe, that Jesus was a prophet of God. Please could you explain why we have different meanings?
you see, it is you who owe an explanation, not I. Because anything which is contradictory to human understanding and nature is to be explained. If somebody raises his eyebrows against that so-called mystery, it is not he who has to explain. I believe in normal human birth. And I believe that even when the species change, a crossbreed is impossible. You can't mate a goat with an elephant and expect half a child born bearing half the characters of elephant and half the characters of the goat. But what about the difference between God and material things here on earth? Mary was made of matter. She was as much human being as any other person. So how can one conceive the child of God being born in the uterus of Mary? And who participated to what extent? All the scientists know, and now it has become, I think, common knowledge everywhere, that half the chromosomes are provided in the childbirth by the female and half by the male. So Mary was with only half the chromosomes. And half the chromosomes can make a freak of nature but not a man. Other half of the chromosomes, where did they come from? One can say God is all-powerful, I agree, but then it would be a creation of God. Father-son relationship is inconceivable. If God has natural chromosomes to his physique or his making, then of course one can extend the imagination saying, somehow, although the difference was so big, we don't even know the number of chromosomes carried by God's sperms or whatever you call it. But if there is something, I mean by way of argument, then it would be possible for us to believe that somehow God managed to bring about a union between a human sperm and a divine sperm. There is no such thing. So a miraculous birth can only be understood within certain limitations. And Jamaat Ahmadiyya believes that birth to be miraculous but not supernatural. Not supernatural to the extent anyway that God physically participated in it. If he did not, there are two possibilities. Either he spontaneously created certain chromosomes which were human chromosomes, because chromosomes anyway cannot bear the characters of God. So half the missing chromosomes were provided by the creation of God, and that appears to be supernatural, but it is the maximum we can accept. Or God had created Mary like some different animals with a dual mechanism provided within her, which got activated at one stage and was responsible for the creation of that sperm which fertilized the ovum of Mary. Now, in animal kingdom, this is known and this is an established fact. In human beings, no research is made, because whenever somebody claims that I have not been touched by any man and the child is born, people, oh, we know, that's all. No need to go further. We understand, of course. So that is why previously in the history, the research was not possible anyway. And now everybody takes it as for granted that girls meet others and things happen. But there is a scientific possibility of a child being born with both the sexes. And we know that some people are converted, or their sex is fixed by operations by surgeons today. Some say, such freaks go to a surgeon and say, I want to become a girl, please remove my male parts, and the operation is done, and suddenly the boy begins to grow with all the manly characters. And the vice versa also happens. So some sort of that thing might have happened within Mary. And it is an established medical principle that once male or female mechanism becomes activated, then the other subsides and dwindles out. Both can not develop simultaneously with full growth. So I believe, according to the description of the Quran, that something like that must have happened to Mary, because the Quran is a very strange and very profound book. It has to be studied with care. When Mary expected a child, obviously she was expecting the child to be a male, because it was the custom of the temple never to accept a woman, a female, as a servant of the church, a priestess. Always male members. So she understood that God knows the practice, and when I say I want a child who will do this and that, God would know that I mean a boy, although she didn't say it in so many words. But according to the Quran, when the child was born, she expressed her utter surprise. Oh God, I have given birth to a woman, a girl. What is this? And the answer was not, yes, I know, this is it. The answer was, you do not know what it is. Allah knows best. He knows what this is. Now, if the child was either male or female, then God should have described it as in a one single epithet, or using one single name for it, either male or female. But the Holy Quran is very strangely lies in between, opening both the possibilities of something different, not entirely a girl or a female character. Now, that is one thing. And then when we come to the question of Mary's conception of the child, again the Holy Quranic description is very profound and must be studied in depth, because the Holy Quran says it happened in a manner that an angel of God was sent to her in the perfect likeness of a most charming, attractive man. Why this? And when he approached her and delivered the message of God, she thought it was a human being, and she must have been agitated, because God particularly says he was a very handsome man. God had turned an angel into the likeness of a very handsome and attractive man. So she said, while he never demanded anything, keep away, I am a chaste woman. And then at another place she says, even my mother was chaste. Don't expect anything wrong. And then she said, how can a child be born unto me while I am chaste, and I will not permit a man to touch me? The answer was, Kazalik Qala Rabbu. Just like this, as it is. So that means that the Quran speaks both of the birth of Mary and the birth of Jesus Christ as not unnatural or supernatural births, but rare births, miraculously controlled by God. So that is why we believe in Jesus to be a prophet of God and not a little son. Thank you.
Hazur, next questioner is Mrs. Janet Formo.
Hello.
Hello.
I would like to ask you, what part do women play in the Islamic religion today?
Could you kindly address the microphone?
What part do women play in the Islamic religion today?
Excellent part, I must say.
Well, whenever I see them, they're always
They
covered.
play the same part as they play in the rest of the world. They bear children while their husbands cannot.
You never see them in an active part.
I'm coming, I understand, of course. Please, bear with me. The role of women in Islam is according to their constitutional differences. No more discrimination is made in Islam in any way, in any area of human activities, except that which lies with their constitutional difference. So, segregation of sexes, as you must have noticed, is a way of protecting the society and protecting the family life against the permissive society, which ultimately is responsible for breaking of most homes. And the pattern of the society changes to a social system which shifts the center of activity or attraction from home to the street and to the ballrooms. Now, where the center of attraction is shifted from home to the outside, there the homes ultimately become like bed and breakfast places, where people come and rest, and the children also come and deposit their things and go back to enjoy life elsewhere. But if a system emphasizes the role of the house and the home, and its teaching promotes this, then an excellent atmosphere is created of attraction within home. Now, there's so many measures which can be counted by way of demonstration, but I'll tell you only one, for instance, because I have been speaking on this so many times, and my cassettes, videos, etc. are all available. If anybody is especially interested in finding out the different roles of women and men in Islam, you can either have access to those cassettes or to some of my writings, which can be provided to you. But here only, by way of illustration, I would say that Islam is a religion which tells women not to make up when they go out, not to prepare themselves and highlight their beauty and charms when they meet unconcerned people, unrelated people. In the house, they are free to look as attractive as they like, make up or do whatever they apply. But when they go out to streets, to business, they should look plain, ordinary, like men, when they are decent and properly dressed and they don't open their buttons of the the front buttons of the shirt, to unnecessarily attract the women folk. I mean, I'm talking not of those boys and girls who go out expressly to attract others. I'm talking a normal behavior, normal pattern. And in this normal pattern, Islam advises women to go out and to walk in the streets, never with the intention of attracting such eyes as have no right upon them. What happens in a permissive society is exactly the opposite. The wife of a husband doesn't care how she looks like until the husband tells her, it's time for going out, let's go to the shopping, let's go to that and that place. And she says, please wait, I have to wake up. I have to particularly take care of how I look. And she takes some time. I mean, this is normal. I'm not talking of a woman who is bad in character. I'm talking of ordinary ladies. This goes with the human lady's character, the human character of females. So, when they are at home, they don't care how they look. While the people who are related to their charms and beauty live in home, have access to their homes. When they go out, they take special care to be attractive. And when they present themselves as very attractive, sometimes partially dressed, all the passions of men are aroused in the society and worked up. And then they return home with dreams of having access to such beautiful things as they saw in the market, in the street, here and there, and even in the church. The result is that man's mind becomes a one-track mind of sensual pursuits. Now, this is not the only factor which creates this. I just told you, by way of illustration, I'll quote one measure only of the Holy Quran, which wants to create a society which is not centered on sensual pursuits. There are other pleasures which can be had from other wide angles of relationship between man and woman and man and man. There are other relatives, brother and sister, father and daughter, uncles, etc. A larger family unit. Now, if you read Islamic teaching in depth, you will be surprised to find how much stress is laid on building these multifarious relationships of man in all directions so a person can draw happiness and satisfaction not only from the relationship of husband and wife, but from the social unit of the home as a whole. And there are other measures which divert the attention of pleasure-seeking man to nobler pursuits, and he is trained in Islam to draw a sort of deep satisfaction from the acts of nobility. But as I told you, this is a very vast subject. I should be excused if I'm very brief, but they're just hints. But as I promised you, if you want to pursue this subject further, for the sake of investigation, then inshallah we will be able to provide you with the relevant material. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next questioner is Mr. Banks Kamra from Sierra Leone. And after that is Mr. David Neil Smith, who should come here, please.
It's the first time you have attended to the after that. Previously you took it as they came.
Because they are mixed up.
Okay.
Behind.
Okay. You're from Sierra Leone.
Yes, please. I'm from Sierra Leone. My name is Francis Banstumar. However, I'm stayed in London here, not part of London.
Right.
My question is, there is a dissatisfaction and decline among nations, countries, brotherhood, regard to humanity. What is the solution? What is the remedy to this situation?
The disorder in the world,
Yes, please.
lack of peace and security.
Yes, please.
Yes. The only solution which can be suggested from the Quranic point of view is the only solution not acceptable to the world, unfortunately. The only solution lies in return of man to God. And that is the most loathsome thing. Even the religious leaders do not want to return to God. They want to remain stuck to their followers and build their own image as demigods. But safety and peace lies only in return to God. And when you return to God, suddenly you reappear among His creations as a humble servant. Like God descends upon His own humble creation, otherwise the creation of God could not have access to God. How do we know God? He descends upon us. God also is a type of humility and modesty. And it is that humility and modesty which makes Him accessible to His creation. So when a servant of God returns to Him, then he reappears in the creation as a drop of the creation. But then that drop has the quality of bringing about a revolution around him. This exactly is described in the Holy Quran with reference to the Holy Prophet of Islam, peace be upon him. Dana fatadalla, fakana qaba qawsaini aw adna. He returned to God. All holy people must return to God, but not to stay there. Fatadalla. Then he descended back, but this time laden with fruit, laden with beneficence of God and rahmah, or blessings of God, and he made himself available to every man. فَكَانَ قَابَ قَوْسَيْنِ أَوْ أَدْنَى. He became the joining thread or bridge between God and man. And in him you found humanity as well as those divine qualities which are not the monopolist characters of God, monopoly characters of God, which can be shared by human beings. So that is the only solution to peace. How many people would like that? They would like to see that in their dead religious leaders and even exaggerate that, but for this to apply to them is almost impossible. Daily we are offered choices of behaving like a godly person or behaving motivated by our selfish interests. How many times do we choose the first option? Very rarely, don't we? So how can peace emerge from disorder? It's not possible. But to soften the message down to a level of acceptability, this is impossible apparently. No man would desire to leave the world and return to God before his death. At death, he would return to him willy-nilly anyway. But let's talk of some other formula which is down-to-earth formula which is possible. We can begin to inch our way to God, if not return to him in total. And that is something which is possible for every human being, and it should be started at some time in one's life. Because man has always two options open to him, either moving in the direction of God and godliness or moving away from him. There is nothing stationary. It's only a false notion that one is securely settled and he neither moves on this side nor on the other. Those who are not nearing God, they are always distancing themselves from God. So this is the formula which has been provided to us by the Holy Founder of Islam, that if you cannot return to God in toto, if you think you have sinned away the time of your forgiveness, then start moving towards Him. This message was conveyed to us through a most wonderful simile. I mean, something which seems to have happened but didn't happen like it happened in the tale. But it's a story-like thing which is potent with deep wisdom and messages. The Holy Founder told his companions of a sinful person who was so sinful that beyond that a sinful person could not be conceived. He had broken all laws. He had transgressed all limits. His crimes against God reached their limit. His crimes against humanity reached their limit. And he had committed so many murders. So, only a few left from the tally of 100. You know, he hadn't reached yet his century in murders, but was quite close to it. So one day he decided, maybe my time of returning to God is near, let me do something about it. How long will I live a life of sin? So he inquired about the saintly people, and he was told that there is one saintly man who may tell him an answer to his dilemma and offer him some solution. So he went to him. And when he heard his list, like in Catholicism, we hear the list of crimes in confession, he was abhorred. He said, you think you can still be forgiven? You can still be redeemed? Forget about it. You're lost. He said, is that right? Yes, it is. He said, if I'm lost, then one added murder would do me no harm. So he murdered him. And then he went to another divan, another, until the tally reached 99. Now the numbers are just similes, they're symbols of perfection of something. And then he reached a divine person who was really godly, who was humble, who knew what forgiveness was, who knew how people sin. So he went to him and he recounted everything. He said, yes, I know it seems impossible, but God is limitless. We are limited people. Our crimes also have boundaries, but God's mercy has no boundaries. So change yourself, begin to change yourself, and hope for the best. But he said, how can I begin to change myself? The answer was, leave the city of the sinful and move to the city of the pious. Now this is a symbol, like a parable of Jesus Christ. It meant leave the society of the sinful people and move away to the society of those who are pious people. That's the only way. But symbolically it was demonstrated in a different way. In that anecdote, the Holy Prophet said that he left as if it was a real city of sinful against a city of the holy people. He left the city of the sinful and started his journey in the direction of the city of the pious people. There is a long, long way between the two, big distance. So he was moving in that direction when the old age ultimately overcame him and he saw the approach of death. And he was so afraid that he started crawling in the direction of the city of the pious. Then death overtook him. Now in that anecdote it is told that the angels who are responsible for forgiveness and the angels who are responsible for punishment, they had a big quarrel among themselves. And they presented their respective cases before God. They said, this is the man, he had not yet reached the city of the holy people, so said the angels of punishment. Now what about, we must be given the charge of this man to punish him. And the other said, no, he was moving in that direction. As far as his intention goes, he had decided. So, yet the city was, quite some distance away, farther away from where he died. So according to this tradition, the Holy Prophet said, God told them to measure the distance between the city of sin and the place of his death, and between the city of the holy people and the place of his death. Whichever distance is closer, he should be counted among the dwellers of that city. And when the angels started measuring the distance from the city of the sinful towards the place where he died, the earth began to elongate and enlarge, and the yards seemed to be too short. And they went on counting yards upon yards and they wouldn't end until there was a long, long distance created. And when they moved to the other side, the earth squeezed. And in a matter of a jitty, this other city was reached. So he said, this is the mercy of Allah. This is the magnificence of God's forgiveness. When he so desires, he can forgive people. And everything is his servant. So that is the answer. The first answer which I gave you was too, sort of idealistic. But this is a real answer. If a man having advanced that much in sin can be retrieved by the mercy of Allah, why not we ordinary people here living on earth? So if we begin to move, and here decision making is important. Once a society decides, individually of course, but collectively in the end, that we must begin to mend our ways and move in the direction of that which pleases God. From then on, they will be in safe hands. Then things will begin to change. But if you continue to proceed the disastrous road to the precipice of destruction, if on your television daily there is more message of defiance, more tone of defiance, there is no sanctity left in religious values, then of course you are asking for trouble. I hope not. Thank you.
Hazur, next questioner is Mr. David Neil Smith from Southfield.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Are you
for
one of our neighbors? Southfield. you
Yes,
said.
neighbour.
Yes,
Yes.
that's right.
Thank you for inviting me today. What is the place of Jesus in Islam?
Right.
And what was the Prophet Muhammad's attitude towards Christians in his lifetime?
The place of Jesus Christ in Islam belongs to the committee of prophets. And there is no differentiation between prophets of God, inasmuch as they all bore messages from God, and as such they must be obeyed and believed in. So Islam not only speaks of Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, as a holy prophet of God, but also adds the title of Messiah to the figure of person of Jesus Christ. And that title has a very special significance of a role which Jesus was to play in the history of Judaism. He was, according to the Quran, he hadn't come to change the religion of Torah, but he had to modify the attitudes within the religion of Torah. According to the Quran, undue stress was laid on revenge, because the early history of Judaism demanded that. But read the Torah, there also is a small window opening in the direction of forgiveness. Forgiveness was not forbidden the Jews, but revenge was highlighted and emphasized because of the psychological state in which the children of Israel were found under the long oppression of the Pharaohs. Many hundred years of that oppression had deprived them of their human, manly values. So they forgave in the name of goodness while it was out of cowardice. They could not take their revenge. You see, the only shattering incidents which worked like a stone thrown on a calm lake was when Moses fought for the sake of his brother, one of his people, and because he was a powerful man, he, in that course, happened to kill the enemy. So to take revenge was so unreal in that society. It created a roar and disturbed the whole equilibrium of relationship between the Israelites and the Pharaohs and their people. That Moses had to leave and run for safety for his life. Leave the city and run for his life to Midian. Now this is what had to be changed, and if the option of forgiveness was equally emphasized as the right to revenge, then a cowardly people, a suppressed people would always opt for forgiveness. That is the reason why in the first phase of Judaic teachings, revenge was emphasized. When Jesus, peace be upon him, came, the entire situation was reversed. The pendulum was on exactly the opposite hand. There the revenge was stressed so much that as if the hearts of the Israelites had turned into stones. They forgot forgiveness. Shylocks were created not in the Shakespearean dramas, but everywhere in real life. So much so that the most innocent person of his age, Jesus, was intolerable to them. They cried for his blood. That indicates the hardening of their hearts to stones and even beyond. So what was the countermeasure, psychologically best countermeasure, to withdraw temporarily from them the right to revenge? That is what Jesus did. But temporarily, because he also said he had not come to change a jot of Torah, a jot of the book. He had come to perfect the teachings in the sense that that part which had not been acted upon That would now be acted upon and a balance would be created. So this is the special status which Jesus holds in the Holy Quran according to God, and that is the status, his status in Islam. But let me remind you of one thing else, that according to the Quran, the Holy Prophet, of course, he is considered to be the supreme among prophets, but just to believe in him is not sufficient. According to the Quran, if a Muslim believes in the truth of the Holy Prophet and rejects out of more than 100,000 prophets of the world, rejects even one prophet, he will no longer be Muslim. So the definition of Islam in Islam is so beautiful from the religious point of view that the attitude of Islam to all other religions is conciliatory. You see, I have been asking this question to many church fathers and elders who come to meet me occasionally. I said, if you are courteous to the Prophet Muhammad, it is only because you are courteous personally. But tell me honestly, according to Christianity, what is his status other than an impostor? A Christian cannot believe in the truth of the Holy Prophet of Islam because the moment he does it, he steps forward to another phase of religion. And strictly speaking, after Jesus Christ, nobody could appear in another way independent of Jesus Christ and create a God-made religion or man-made religion. But in Islam it's the opposite. If a Muslim doesn't believe in Jesus Christ, he's ousted from Islam. If a Muslim doesn't believe in Krishna, he'll be ousted from Islam. If he doesn't believe in Buddha, he will be ousted from Islam. So this is the one religion which is universal in its attitude to the messengers of God all over the world. And Jesus holds a very special position among the prophets of God according to Islam. Thank you. Next, please.
Next questioner is Reverend Eric Kamran.
I am happily surprised. I thought you would be Maulvi Kamran. And the mullahs have acquired, a stance nowadays.
Yes.
It is very scaring.
I'm a very good friend of Sir Zafarullah Khan.
You were?
Yes, he died.
Thank you.
And he spoke very highly about you. And I heard from other Muslim scholars also. But unfortunately, I was brought up in Pakistan, which was my hometown. And I
Where about?
Islamabad.
Islamabad.
And I heard a lot against you, which I found it today is different. You are a different person. You are very logical and very straight and very nice.
Thank you.
And I appreciate that. And I call you His Excellency Mirza Tahir Ahmad. I have got only one question. And this is, I think, deliverance from cross. Sir Zafarullah Khan has said
Yes,
also.
that's right.
And then in other. I've got the Urdu Bible in my hand and Anajil also, as you call us the people of the book. So, if we are the people of the book and we believe Anajil and all that, in John's Gospel it says that when Jesus was on the cross, you see, according to Jewish and according to Greek thinking, any person who is left on Sabbath day on the cross, you see, and the Sabbath has arrived.
That will violate the
Yes. Yes. They used to break the legs in order to find out whether that man is dead or alive. So the two persons who were with Jesus Christ on the cross of Calvary,
their legs were broken.
Their legs were broken because they never died.
But not that of Jesus Christ.
Not of Jesus Christ, because he died already. But according to Mirza, His Excellency Ghulam Ahmad Qadian, Jesus in India, he wrote a book.
He was delivered alive from the cross.
Alive from the cross. So how it can be, while the book of the Gospel of Matthew, John, and Mark, and other, and then
even if you had not quoted the Gospels, I would readily agree with you that the legs of Jesus Christ were spared. They were not broken. It's only a question of what you read in that.
So he died on the cross.
No, he didn't. What I'm saying is that the whole scenario has to be rebuilt before you make a judgment. Not only what happened at the cross, but just before that and after that, and how was Jesus seen according to the same Gospels whose authority you are quoting. So when I build that scenario, then there will be more questions to be answered, this time by you, not by me. You see, I'm going to tell you, number one, what Jesus said, according to the same Bible, to a fellow member of the three, was hanging by the cross, that before the day is out, before 24 hours day is finished, I'll meet you in the paradise. Did he not? So where did he keep that promise? For 3 days and 3 nights, according to Christian ideology, he remained in hell for the sake of the sinful people to redeem them from their crimes. So what contradiction? And why, on the deathbed, everybody, even if he is a liar, tries to say a few things rightly, speak the truth. But what do you read of Jesus when he says, I'll meet you in the heaven, and he himself goes, Na'udhu-billah, we don't believe in that, goes to hell instead, and does not keep the promise anyway. But this is not the only broken promise if you read the Bible according to from the angle from which you are taught Bible. We read the same Bible, but from a different angle, and I'll tell you how. We read sense in the same. He promised that he would leave them and go to the lost sheep of Israel. Did he not? And the crucifixion took place, and he, according to the biblical, the gospel writers, he returned to heaven. Did he not? And were there any lost sheep of Israel in the heaven at that time? Were any herds of the house of Israel, herds of sheep or herds of people belonging, of course that's the meaning, lifted to the fourth heaven or fifth heaven or whatever it was, so that Jesus could keep his promise and go to them? Obviously not. Then he also promised them that no sign will be shown unto this generation of this and that, sinful people, but the sign of Jonah, the prophet of the fish. Right?
Yes. 3 days and 3 nights.
Right. So was Jonah kept 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the fish, alive or dead? If he was kept alive, if he was delivered from near death, then this is the sign which one expects of Jesus Christ to show. And then now come just close to the time where we find Jesus praying and also reminding his followers around that this is no time for sleep, get up and pray. And he was almost shedding tears of blood. And then he prayed to God that I don't want this. Please wave off this bitter cup from me. But still, I submit that thine should be done. If you have decided that I must be sacrificed, then go ahead and do it. As far as I'm concerned, I'm praying to you not to make it happen as it's happening, it's about to happen. Now, this description of the Bible takes away the spirit of deliberate sacrifice on the part of Jesus altogether. So that means that it was God who was forcibly slaughtering his son, and the son was all the time beseeching him not to do that. But at the same time, he must have received an assurance from God that he will be saved from the ignoble death. Because the last cry of almost protest we hear while he was still upon the cross was Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani, which is a cry of surprise and disbelief. How could it happen that I'm about to die? That sort of thing. Have you abandoned me? Well, it seems God had promised him he would never abandon him. And what about the unkept promises of going to the house of lost sheep of Israel and in search of them and delivering the message to them? All that is finished. So there has to be some other meaning to it than what is ordinarily understood by the Christians. Now, when he's taken down,
So his
I'm coming. When he's taken down, his legs are not broken, despite the fact that when his side was pierced, blood and water gushed out. And in the book Deliverance from Cross, published by the Ahmadiyya Community London, in which it is the coverage of a function held here, a sort of function in which Christians also participated. A well-known surgeon gives his evidence that the way we can rebuild the scenario of what happened at the time. His heart was here, the spear pierced his body from that side, and it could not have crossed the swollen watery pleura, which is the description of wet pleurisy in scientific terms. And the evidence of blood and water gushing out speaks of a life phenomenon, not the phenomenon of death. So he says it is a positive evidence according to medical understanding that Jesus had not yet died by the time his side was pierced, but his heart was not damaged. So despite the signs of his life, his legs were spared. Why? Because there seems to be a sort of conspiracy between Joseph of Arimathea and the governor, Pilate, of that area, Roman governor, who in fact was made to decide against Jesus Christ, against his will, despite the dream of his wife. So what seems possible is that he willfully had appointed the time of crucifixion to be a time somewhere after the midday of Friday. He knew better than anybody else that according to the Jewish Christian, nobody would be permitted to hang beyond the hour of sunset. In fact, the bodies were taken down much before that. So there was every likelihood that while ordinarily the death took place within 3 days and nights, that is the time by which they were kept to remain hanging. They were kept remaining hanging. And despite that, there was an additional precaution. Legs should be broken, lest if they were alive, they should die. So in case of Jesus Christ, he hung upon the cross only for 3 or 4 hours. Because according to the time of the year, the days had already started shortening. Now they were still short, and they were not yet elongated as we find in the summer. And before the sunset, the bodies of all these 3 were taken down. Although the legs of the criminals were broken, he was spared. Why? I believe out of special courtesy and out of some secret orders. While within 3 hours, the death was not normal to have occurred. Again, when you read Bible, you'll be surprised to find this expression of wonder when Pilate was told by Joseph of Arimathea that he is dead, so hand over his corpse to us and we'll give it to the Christians for a decent burial. He said, already dead? No, he knew how long it took normally for people to die a slow, torturous death upon cross. But still, he permitted him to just take away. Then what happens? There are secret goings and comings to the sepulchre, and an ointment is prepared hurriedly, for which preparation was already made, which contains 12 ingredients, all curative agents. Now that ointment which was prepared by disciples or apostles, all his followers, that was applied to his body. It contained myrrh, it contained some sulfur elements and other things which were known to be the curative agents of the time. And this prescription is still used by many, an Oriental healer in the East as the most effective ointment for wounds. So if he had already died, then there was no question why he should have been applied that ointment. And again, there was no question of any secrecy about his whereabouts. Because if he had once died and risen from the dead, then nobody could kill him again, could he? Then he was beyond the long arm of the Roman law and the long arm of the Jewish people. So that was the time for him to come public, to appear in the public openly and defy them and say, look here, I have risen from the dead. But what secrecy? He moves about from place to place under the cover of night. When particularly requested to go to the cities, to move during the daytime, he refuses. He said no. And when he appears before some of his disciples who are surprised by his presence, they think he is a ghost. See, the only evidence of his death we find in the matters as they are reported in the New Testament at the time of crucifixion is, then he gave up the ghost. These are the words you find written in the New Testament. That means he died. Who said it, we don't know. As if somebody was watching and from some distance he thought he had given up the ghost. So evidence is a bit weak and not entirely dependable, but when it is completely rejected by Jesus Christ himself, then even a flimsy evidence like such, nothing is left of that evidence at all. When his nature was suspected to be that of a ghost by his own followers, he said, no, I'm not a ghost. I'm the same Jesus Christ, in the same body. Come and touch me. Feel my wounds. Look here, look there. I'm not a ghost. And to prove the point beyond, that he had not risen into an ethereal form, which apparently looked like human, he inquired from them if they had any food for him to share. They said, yes, we are eating bread and fish. He said, please give me some. And a portion of that was given to him. So the entire scenario is speaking of a Jesus who was in migration, in the process of migration. And this is a universal phenomenon proved from the Bible as well as from the Holy Quran, that all the brave prophets of Allah, although they defy all threats to their lives during the first phase of their ministry, when they are weakest, when they are told to migrate, they go into hiding. They do it quietly. Like Moses did in the dead of the night, like Lot did, they all left their country in quiet and without the knowledge of the people around. So we believe that if Jesus was true, and we believe him to be true, then he must have kept his promise of going to the lost sheep of Israel. And if you want to trace him, you must trace the course of history which the Israelites took earlier in leaving the mainland and spreading over to other places. I'm talking of the first diaspora. And when you study the history of the spread of the Jews after Nebuchadnezzar invaded Judea, then you will find them to be moving away from the mainland towards Afghanistan and Kashmir. And that is the reason why people of Afghanistan and people of Kashmir have nothing in common with the people of the subcontinent India. Their features are different, their nomenclature is different, their complexion is different, their style of life is different. And one of the British, not the British but Western scholars I read, that if you want to rebuild the life pattern of the women at the time of Moses, go to the Dal Lake and see the Kashmiri women bringing their earthen pots to the lake and fill it and wash their clothes. This is exactly how they looked and this is exactly how they lived. So the scholars are in no doubt about the origin of the people of Afghanistan and the people of Kashmir as belonging to the same Israelite stock. If Jesus was true, and we believe he was true, he must have kept his promise. He must have gone in search of these lost tribes and delivered his mission to them and completed his ministry. So this is the scenario as we say it.
Okay. Can I have a small...
Yes, please do.
One thing is this, that Jesus used to raise people from the dead, as Quran says. Isa Ruullah, Muhammad Rasulullah, Musa Kalimullah. So if he was used to raise people from the dead, and according to His Excellency, your perception about the logic and all that, which I agree completely, I don't disagree, I'm not on the prejudice line.
I know, I can see that.
Which I have seen a lot in Pakistan. 100% prejudice,
Right.
so I'm not prejudiced. I'm not prejudging anything. But what I'm saying in the logic is this: if he was making the people raised from the dead, so did God raise him from the dead also?
You see,
When he died,
God could, of course.
God could have, yes.
Of course. But God could do anything and can do anything.
Yes, you have said that.
Yet on the authority of that, I can't say this is a horse. And if you disbelieve me, I would say, cannot God do that? And you will be absolutely nonplussed. You say, yes, God can do. What would be your answer? God can do anything. But the stranger it is, more powerful evidence there should be of its existence. So God can do everything, but if the evidence is counter to what people believe, then we cannot say because God can do it, so it must have happened. I am producing an evidence on the authority of Jesus himself, that he did not rise from the dead, it was a case of survival against all odds. As he himself had explained that his case would be like that of the Jonah. He survived against all odds and continued to survive. And he was resuscitated by God somehow. So was the case of Jesus Christ. But there are so many other things in that regard which I could quote. As far as his bringing the dead to life is concerned, we believe on the authority of Quranic metaphors and parables, the style of life, expression I mean, that he raised not the physically dead to life, but spiritually dead to life. And because he himself had said that he spoke in parables, people failed to understand him. And now when the Western scholars have reinvestigated all the incidents of his so-called bringing to life the dead people, they have found many loopholes in them. And they are no longer believed to be literal revival of the dead, even by the Christian scholars of this era. But I speak on the authority of the Quran. The Quran, when it uses a phrase, another verse of the Quran explains that phrase so that it may not mislead you. He speaks of Jesus bringing the dead to life, and speaks about the Holy Prophet, that, O Prophet, invite them to yourself so that you can raise them from the dead. Tell them to come to you so that you raise them from the dead. So this phrase absolutely explains the spiritual jargon or terminology, that when it is said that the dead are raised, it is not meant that physically dead are raised. It's meaningless anyway.
But you believe that physically it can be raised by God?
It can be raised if God says so.
Okay.
But if there is a purpose and there is wisdom in that, if there is no purpose, no wisdom, then God doesn't do stupid things. But He can. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hazur, next questioner is Mr. Arjan Singh Jagdev, who is the ex-president of Southwest Gurdwara, Shooting. Mr.
Yes.
Arjan Singh.
Our old friend. Huh? Why don't you say that? Almost
Yes,
like brother. Huh?
Your
Right.
Excellency, my most respectful greetings to you. My question today, first of all, I must appreciate and really agree with you that all religions, the one thing you had told to our friend who has come from Sierra Leone, that if we start traveling towards godliness, there will be no problem.
That's right.
Now, but here mostly we discuss the historical things, what happened and what not. But that was the crux of the matter, which I think. Now, my question is that we believe in reincarnation and the settlement of our good or bad deeds immediately after death. And I believe that Islam and Christianity, they believe in doomsday. Could you please tell me when was the last doomsday and when is going to be the next doomsday, and during that time how many souls would there be to be accounted for? And I think millions are born every day and millions die.
That's
So
right.
that's my
Thank you very
question.
much. Now I'll turn to both the questions. The question which is addressed to me and the question which is almost phrased and not completed. What happens to the soul, so the souls which return to the earth in other forms? That is the question I mean. I'll answer both the said question and the unsaid question. Now, as far as the last doomsday is concerned, the doomsday should be understood in the light of religious terminology. According to the religious terminology, everything which is created by God returns to Him. In the sense then that the age of the universe is not eternal. Whatever is created, even if it is lifeless, it will ultimately die or disintegrate into nothingness. And then a new cycle begins. So the last doomsday, I can guess, should have occurred somewhere around 20 billion years ago, before the Big Bang, when all the universe was wrapped into a sort of existence which the scientists cannot fully understand, only their mathematical concepts as to what might have happened. You see, the whole universe is expanding now. And the expanding universe has begun to squeeze in portions here and there, so that hundreds and some say thousands of black holes are already created at smaller scales. A black hole means the one which absorbs all forms of energy and so powerfully attracts them through the exaggerated force of gravity. I mean, I'm not going to go into detail how it happens, but imagine the gravitational force is multiplied by a million. How powerful it will become. It can attract the sun in a matter of entity and make it disappear into a hole which is not visible, which doesn't occupy any space. So that is what we are talking about. According to the Quran, he created universe and he would make the universe wrapped up and dissolve into nothingness until everything will disappear. And then he will recreate it. So the doomsday we are talking about, in physical terms, would be the end of the universe, which will be re-wrapped into a form which is not correctly conceivable by the scientists, but mathematical projections can create an image that this might have happened. But there are other possibilities, and scientists themselves agree. They say there is also a likelihood of universe sinking into the black hole from the dimensions we know here on Earth into some other dimensions, so that the death of universe is the creation of another in different dimensions. And when that universe ultimately ripens there, reaches its designed end, then it is again squeezed into nothingness and a new universe is born on our side of the dimensions. It's very difficult to understand for people who do not know what dimensions are, what are the mathematical possibilities. But I'm not talking of layman's dreams, I'm talking of scientists' verdict, the possibilities. So, doomsday, if you must have an explanation of doomsday in physical terms, would be the time when the universe would reach that ultimate limit where it must be drawn back into nothingness from where it erupted. Now, about the word day, it is very important to understand the term day. If you are talking of 24 hours day, then your question is very valid. In fact, it is unanswerable by any believer in the doomsday as we believe. But the day is explained in the Holy Quran as a term which may be applicable even to 18 billion years. The day of God is different from the day of human beings as they count. And the Holy Quran gives examples. I have calculated them to work it up to the age of the universe. And you'll be surprised to learn, if you go through that mathematical calculations, that nothing is concocted. It's all based on the Quranic statement and the scientific understanding of the universe's age, etc. My working was around 18 billion and some 100,000 years as the age of the universe according to the Quran. The scientists say it is between 15 billion and 20 billion. So there is no way yet for them to determine exactly whether it is closer to 15 or closer to 20. But the way I worked it out, it happened to be 18 billion some. So if that be the age of the universe, we should expect at the end of this period some doomsday. And some doomsday must have taken place before, because the Holy Quran says this is a process which is ongoing process, unending process. We have been doing this before and we'll do it again. You are quite right to understand that this is not just one doomsday. There must have been previous doomsdays and there must come other doomsday. And this is a constant ongoing process. But another thing, doomsday is, as I have said, is not just one short day of 24 hours, but it may be a process which is extended into 1,000,000 years or 1,000,000,000 years according to God, in which people are reckoned as they appear before Him. But not immediately as they return. They go through a process of change, a process of transformation of their souls, to a point where a soul is born out of the soul which we know as rare as compared to our body. So that the soul appears to be a sort of material thing as compared to the soul born out of that soul. They're all relative terms. So we believe that souls go through a long process of evolution whereby they reach a spiritual form, as if they're reborn. And then the doomsday for them will begin. As far as the belief in reincarnation is concerned, I believe that the Sikhs particularly have no right to believe in that, because they never received this message from Hazrat Guru Baba Nanak. There is not a shred of evidence from which we can say that Hazrat Guru Baba Nanak spoke of reincarnation on this earth. And he couldn't have, because he was extremely critical of Vedas. As you know your Granth Sahib, you know he was very critical of Vedas. And this is one of the Vedic teachings which was imparted to Sikhism slowly, gradually, without their taking notice of it, because a lot of Sikhs hail from the Hindu stock. So they accepted this, it crept into them unnoticed. And it's not possible anyway, because if this theory of reincarnation is correct, then according to this theory, those who act wrongfully in this world, of human beings, they do not return to this earth in the form of human beings. Their status is lowered to the lower forms of life. They could even be recreated by way of punishment as worms, or insects, or dogs, or lions, or things like that. Now we know that this age is Kal Yuga, sinful age. So here the question should arise that of the danger of extermination of human race. Because when a sinful society dies, it should not be raised again in human form. But what we find is exactly the opposite. People, the scientists particularly, are worried about extinction on some forms of animals. But they are not worried about the extinction of human race. It's the contrary. They say some measures should be adopted, to plan, family planning and do this. Otherwise there will be too many human beings born. So how could a sinful society, according to the philosophy of reincarnation, have multiplication and such rapid multiplication of a sinful people? They should have been relegated to the lower order of life. So this means that this is just an explanation of older generations, which was not accepted by Hazrat Guru Baba Nanak, the founder of Sikhism, and should not be subscribed to by the Sikhs today. Thank you.
The next questioner is Mr. Francis Smart from Sierra Leone.
You always say Sierra Leone, as if it's a part of Syria. It is Sierra Leone, not Syria, please.
Thank you.
The question reads, in medicine, fasting is considered to be detrimental to one's health. Fasting is one of the contributing factors in the development of peptic ulcer disease, particularly gastric ulcer. What is the position of predisposed Muslims and patients of gastric ulcer in Islam with respect to fasting during the holy month of Ramadan?
Could anybody help me understand? Because you see this, through this artificial means, the voice is slightly distorted. I can't fully understand sometimes, particularly when the pronunciation is a bit different from the pronunciation to which we are accustomed. Would you help?
He's saying that about the ulcers,
Is that right?
I,
Ulcers?
yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Ulcer, gastric ulcer. But gastric
that's
ulcer
right,
is just
understand.
one form of the
Nobody is permitted to keep fast by the Holy Quran if he is ill. That is the answer.
No.
The Holy Quran does not permit an ill person to keep fasts.
Excuse me, that's not really the main question there because that I know already. But I'm talking about predisposed Muslims because the predisposed Muslims are not diagnosed. So they are never known in the population, but they keep
I
fast
don't
for a month.
understand this terminology of predisposed Muslims. Has anybody understood?
To ulcer, yeah.
I am
To
sorry,
gastric
prone to
ulcer.
this get ulcers.
Exactly so.
Is that what you mean? Yes.
Yes. Sorry, please, for
You
misunderstanding.
see, everyone is prone to have something. And the various people belonging to different races and countries and climates have their predisposition, that inclination to fall ill, and not in general terms, but particularly fall in one direction. For instance, in the Gambia, the pernicious anemia is very common because the resistance to malaria, which was essential for their survival, can only be achieved at the cost of this weakness. If you are predisposed to pernicious anemia, then you cannot suffer from malaria. So they are saved from one more dangerous option to a less dangerous option, and they live normal life with that pernicious anemia, but with malaria, the severe malaria which we find there, they cannot survive long. So it is God's ways. When somebody is so-called predisposed to certain things, it is not always bad. It is sometimes a preventive measure against some other dispensations or inclinations. For instance, the second head of the Ahmadiyya community, Hazrat Hakim Nuruddin, was a great physician of Indian fame. He was a gifted physician. Once a case of tuberculosis came to him, which had been declared incurable by the best physicians of India at that time. He artificially created an ulcer on his shin. And from then on, the ulcer drew all the attention of his economy. And as if the bacillus of tuberculosis remained dormant from then on. So sometimes a bad thing, apparently bad thing, is instrumental in your being saved from the worst thing which could have happened to you. Now, why this should happen at all? Because it is human beings whose whose lack of proper conduct in their diet, in their habits of life, etc., invites many diseases. So there is a counter system running along with it to save them from the direct consequences of their own misconduct or misbehavior or negligence, and we see only the suffering part and we don't know what it has saved you from. So if this is the philosophy you wanted to understand, then it is only a short answer to that, but if I misunderstood your question, you have to repeat it more clearly, please.
Yeah, I really wanted to admit that fasting in the month of Ramadan affects the head.
Affects the health?
Yes.
Adversely?
Yes,
Or
in as much
in a
as...
good way?
In a bad way, in as much as...
All right. To counter you, I quote the example of a research carried out by Israeli scientists recently. No, they are no friends of Muslims in Islam, are they?
No.
Do you think they are?
They are not. I said.
A research was carried out to find out the effects of fasting among Muslims, obviously with the intention that they will find out the damages done to the health, and then they'll highlight them and tell the whole world, look at this religion, you know. The type of fasting it promotes is detrimental to human health. And the published report says they were surprised, they were astounded to discover that fasting left healthier people behind it than comparatively ill and sickly people. So go after this scientific evidence, the evidence of a people who would not distort facts for the sake of Islam. See, on the whole, it is fasting which takes care of many excesses of the rich people particularly, and the have-alls who benefit so much from fasting. Because if they had not gone through the mill of fasting, they would not realize the suffering of those who have nothing, the suffering of the ill, the suffering of the hungry, and also their excesses against themselves by eating too much fat and things is rectified during the course of fasting. So they emerge lighter in body and stronger in soul. What is wrong about that? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Fine?
Thank you very much. I'm aware.
Thank you, thank you.
Hazur, the next questioner is Mr. John Dawson from Dunstable.
I have to correct my statement. Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Awwal, that is the first caliph after Hazrat Masih Maud Islam, was second in spiritual leadership because he came after Hazrat Masih Maud Islam. So that hovered in my mind when I said the second head of the Ahmadiyya community. When we refer to the term head, we mean Khalifa. We do not include the founder. So he was the first head of the Ahmadiyya community after the demise of the founders. Thank you very much for reminding me. Please.
Thank you. Greetings and thank you for your hospitality today. A simple question, what are the views of Islam on the subject of euthanasia?
Yes.
I say a simple question.
That's right.
I appreciate that there are degrees such as self-inflicted voluntary euthanasia with assistance by others, and euthanasia decided and effected by others, and the withdrawal of ordinary means to sustain life, and the withdrawal of exceptional means to sustain life.
You see, the issue of euthanasia is a principal issue of who possesses the rights of life. Who is the master of life here on earth? Man is not the master of his own life according to all religious philosophies. It is only a trustee of life. And as such, no religion promotes suicide. Apart from those so-called religions which are philosophies but godless philosophies. In regular, orderly, conventional religions, everywhere suicide is taken to be a crime against God. Because He is the giver and He alone has the authority to call back life when He so desires. So that is why euthanasia or any act of murder are classed together. Moreover, there are so many complications and dangers attendant upon accepting this as a legal method of taking life that you will in fact invite murder and disorder in the society. And in the name of euthanasia, many crimes would take place which will appear in a shady area where it will be very difficult to determine whether a crime had been committed or a normal request had been acted upon. Euthanasia also raises some questions about happiness and sorrow, suffering and relief and peace and disturbance and so on and so forth. Man moves between these two ends, and this is life. In some areas, the distance between the two is smaller and narrower. In some areas, it's bigger and broader. And the level of tolerance of each individual is different from others. He has his own level of tolerance. So there are so many factors which cannot be scientifically determined to help people decide whether, in this case, it is a fit plea, acceptable plea or not. So, according to Islam, things should be left to God. If a man suffers beyond his tolerance, what man has in his power is to use means at his disposal to alleviate the suffering. Some powerful drugs can be used. Some homeopathic treatment I know is so useful in the alleviation of pain and burning, sense of burning, in the terminal cases of cancer, that sometimes a single dose works like magic. So God has created a life of challenge for us. If there is suffering, there are also answers to suffering. So instead of following the right course to find an answer, if we short-circuit it and start taking lives, that would be playing God on earth. So Islam doesn't subscribe to this manner of taking lives. Thank you.
The next questioner is Mr. Gulzar Ahmed from Walsall, Birmingham.
Walsall. Where is that?
9 miles from Birmingham.
Right.
To be precisely. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Ahmed from Birmingham for bringing me here to see and feel what I have seen here.
Thank you.
Because I have only heard of that before, till today. But if everywhere is peace and love is like from MD brothers and sisters, the world would be a very nice place to live.
Thank you so much for the compliment.
Right. I have two questions. One is only 20%. One is 80%.
If you permit me, I've already spoken of justice, haven't I? So when I didn't permit an earlier speaker to ask two questions together,
yeah, the reason I said two.
Permit you to do that.
No, there are only one question. One is 20%, one is 80%. Because I'm here after so many.
Very clever of you.
Now, because I am here after so many questions.
Go ahead.
My question has been asked already, and 80% of the first question has been answered.
Please.
Right?
Thank you.
Right. What is the contribution of MD Jamaat?
What is
the contribution
of
to
MD
the
Jamaat towards what?
peace?
Towards peace.
Yeah, that is 20% I want to know.
The most important thing which the world needs today is a rectification of attitudes and establishment of absolute justice. This is fundamental to the question you have asked, central to the question you have asked. How can peace be built? On what platform?
That's what I'd like to know.
You see, that is it. And if you remember Reagan, or was it Bush, who declared that we are going to usher a new era of peace in the world. A new world order would be created. Immediately after that, I delivered a sermon inquiring from him. Of course, I knew, even if the voice reached him, he wouldn't stoop low enough to answer me and take me seriously. But the question still stands. It's a very vital question. On what platform do you propose to build peace? To my knowledge, peace can only be built on the platform of absolute justice. There is no other way. Whatever you may try, first you have to make the foundation of peace, which is absolute justice, then peace will follow willy-nilly by itself. So that is my answer to your question. We are already trying to make this awakening and awareness towards the vital importance of absolute justice, not only in general human relationship, but particularly in politics. Unless politics becomes moral only to the extent, not in other sense, they may enjoy themselves as they please, but I ask politicians for God's sake to return to the values of absolute justice. If they return to the values of absolute justice, I say not values because absolute justice is singular, but many a value is created out of this in ordinary life. It governs your economy, it governs your social relationship, it governs your politics, international relationship, etc., etc. So if one only determines to adhere to the demands of absolute justice, then peace will automatically be established. It would be like rising of the sun. You don't say somehow bring out the sun and then we'll work towards establishing the day. You see, that's one and the same thing. And to my understanding of human affairs, absolute justice is the other name for peace. And the society, the modern society, is not ready to accept that because it continues to clash with the national interest of people everywhere in the world. The British people are known for their natural dispensation towards justice. They rule in India, may be blamed and may be abused, may be accused of excesses, etc., by the extremists everywhere. But when you compare the history of the French colonies with the British colonies, the history of Dutch colonies with the British colonies, Belgian colonies with the British colonies, if you have any iota of justice in you, you would say positively that the British maintained the principles of justice in their colonies far more meticulously and honestly than in case of other European colonizations. Yet, these people themselves have changed so much that even justice is fading out fast from their internal relationship. As far as the international relationship is concerned, justice was never entertained as a valid coin by the politicians anywhere in the world. But I'm talking of erosion within the British society. The justice, the absolute justice, is fast fading out and is being eroded. So what of international justice? You see, whenever the question arises as to the relationship between the Britain and some other countries, it would be a mad politician who decides according to the dictates of absolute justice, despite the fact that that is against the British interest. Whenever the outcome of application of absolute justice is against the national interest of any state, without doubt, without hesitation, the politician would decide in favor of a measure which will be against justice but in favor of the nation. Is that right or wrong? If that is right, how can you expect peace? Impossible.
Right. And the second 90%. After watching that documentary on the television, why in Pakistan, why is India so high-tech? In Pakistan, Middle East?
But this, I'm not going to permit you this question, but I have a right to ask a question.
Right.
So let me ask a question.
Right.
What did Jesus Christ do to be so ill-treated? And what did his followers do to be so viciously persecuted, not only for one generation, but for 3 centuries continuously? To be fed to the wild beasts, to be burnt alive in their homes. What was the crime? Was it a crime to say, if somebody strikes on one cheek, offer the other one? The persecution always ensues from the deep realization of the society belonging to the old order that a new powerful order is being born. It is going to wipe out the old order of wrong attitudes. And the leadership is going to change hands. And nothing can stop it except sword, except persecution. Then they are compelled to take coercion as a weapon of fighting the new ideologies which challenge from the point of morality the ills of the society, not the good points of the society. And they know deep inside. That is why the Holy Quran says that we'll punish them. Because we know that they reject the truth despite knowing within, deep in their hearts, that this is truth. Because the truth has the quality of emerging victorious ultimately. It may suffer for 1 century or 2, maybe 3, but it would emerge victorious, and that is the danger felt by the old order, the custodians of the old order, I mean, that compels them to take to sword, unfortunately. That is exactly what happened in case of Ahmadis.
In other words, truth will always win.
Of course it will.
I got the answer.
It will prevail. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hazur, now we have come to the end of the questions from our guests.
Now, the time is also over, almost, but I would invite the first questioner out of the courtesy I owe him. I told him once the first circle is over, I will invite him again, but again for one question, please.
And that will be the last
Thank you.
question,
That will
and
be
then
the
Mr. Yasmin Khan will say a few words.
Thank you. Yes, I'm coming, I know. The private secretary is informing me that it's time for my next engagement, but after this question, inshallah, I'll follow. I'll come.
Sir, I'm grateful to you that you allowed me for another time.
Thank you.
Now, the question is slightly connected with Jesus Christ, and reincarnation is our Mr. Singh said. So, according to my personal belief, and according to the verses in the Quran that I have read, they say, Allah said, فَأَرْسَلْنَا رُوحَنَا فَتَمَثَّلَ لَهَا بَشَرًا سَوِيًّا.
That's right.
That means we sent our spirit to Mary, and that spirit became a kind of bashar.
An apparition.
Bashar, yes.
Right, right.
And then that bashar, that he spoke to Mary. And you, as you said, biologically or this in any other way, that Mary was an ordinary woman. Then in Surah Al Imran, there are verses.
I didn't say, I think, ordinary
Yes,
woman. I said
biologically.
she was a woman,
No.
human being,
Yes, yes.
but with a special apparatus provided within a reproductive system.
Yes. But
yes, that is what I said.
Yes. So she was a very special woman, because in Surah Al Imran it is written that food was being sent to her from heaven. And when Zakaria asked her where this food has come from, she says from Allah. And if she was a very special woman, then she was ordered by Allah to march towards the east. It's written in Surah Maryam.
I agree.
And then this verse is there that فَأَرْسَلْنَا رُوحَنَا فَتَمَثَّلَ لَهَا بَشَرًا سَوِيًّا.
That's right.
So there is no mention of angel. There is a mention of his own Rooh of Allah.
You see, the word Rooh,
Rooh Allah, yes.
the word Rooh is explained in the Holy Quran itself.
Yes, yes.
Why don't you read that verse as well?
I read it.
The Holy Quran says, وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ قُلِ
No.
الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي.
No, and secondly...
No, please.
Yes.
Now listen to my answer. I have reminded you of another verse of the Holy Quran which speaks of the nature of Rooh. Whenever the word Rooh is used, what it means.
Sir, Rooh of Allah.
No, I'm telling you. The Holy Quran says that يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ. Ar-Ruh is that Ruh which we were talking about. It's not Ruhun.
فَأَرْسَلْنَا رُوحَنَا
يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ. Listen to
فَتَمَثَّلَ
this
لَهَا
verse,
بَشَرًا
please.
سَوِيًّا. Yes.
I'm talking of
Yes, yes.
This another verse which explains the nature of Rooh to us.
Yes.
Without the help of the Quranic verses, we cannot interpret correctly some other verses of the Quran which use the same terminology. The question is, what is Ar-Ruh? It is the soul of God, as we know soul. And does God have a body as well? If we speak of God's soul in the terms we know the soul to be, then we lose God altogether. Because no God is conceivable with a physical sort of body, a denser body with a spirit within him. And if that is the spirit he is talking about, when he sent that spirit in the form of a man, as he interprets the Quran, then God was spiritless for those moments. And all his spirit was transformed into the image of a man.
Yes.
But so please don't attribute things to the Quran which is inconceivable and they are not possibly applicable to the nature of God. So that is why I said refer to the Quran itself to understand the meaning of Ruh.
Ruh, yes.
Now, explaining the word Ruh, the Holy Quran says, Yas'alunaka anir Ruh. They ask you about the nature of Ruh. What Ruh means. Qul Ruhu min amri Rabbi. The Ruh is nothing other than the will of God. It is the will of God which takes the form of a Ruh or a spirit. There is nothing else to it.
Yes.
So the will of God was expressed in the creation of Jesus Christ. But why did it take the form of a human being? That is what I was discussing when I was diverted to another discussion. Because it must have excited in Mary that womanly feeling which was essential to trigger off that organ within her which could have acted as a sexual organ within. Now, I'm just talking of possibilities from the point of view of the Quranic descriptions, and it is applicable there. So when she was aroused by the appearance of a handsome, very attractive person, then he was a lady, he is a woman. She was a woman. She was a lady, and something must have happened within her to excite her. And that was the moment when the Holy Quran exactly describes that she conceived. So that the philosophy of God's will taking the form of a man, and a handsome man for that matter, lies in this explanation.
Sir, but in all this matter, there was no human being involved, I believe.
No.
No. Then he is the Son of God.
No.
Of course.
All
there
right,
is no
just a
human
minute.
being.
When did the humanity begin?
Sir, I have no idea about that.
No, please.
Not let.
There has to be one man, the first man.
Yes.
No?
There was Adam.
Adam.
Adam, yes.
Was he the first man?
Yes. He had no father.
He was born out of which father?
He had no father, I said.
So was he son of God?
No, he was not son of God. There was no woman.
Why not?
Why not? Because there was no woman.
Why do you apply
Sir,
different yardsticks?
There was no woman involved in it, no?
How do you know?
So there was no woman involved in it.
How do you know that?
Yes, this is what is described.
That means you have to reread the Quran, please.
Do you think
once again, after having shed the prejudices you have inherited from the society.
Yes.
The Holy Quran does not speak of Adam as the first man.
Adam, yes.
Adam.
Yes.
The Holy Quran doesn't speak of Adam as first man. He speaks of Adam and Hawa, Eve,
yes,
both having been born before, out of human parents. According to the Quranic declaration, society existed, human society existed at the time when Adam was created the messenger of God. So the birth of Adam only means his appointment as a representative of God. But humanity preceded the birth of Adam by 1,000,000 years or so. So Adam was not that type of man which you think he was.
Yes, no, but he was not created
But I'm
through a
telling you,
woman, no?
but still, one man has to be conceived as the forefathers. So this leads us to the discussion of whether it was chicken which was first or the egg which was first.
So
why waste time in this?
No, that is not
this
the question of
purposeless
wasting of time.
exercise. Believe, please, that to call Jesus Son of God.
No, I'm not calling.
No.
This is
what I'm saying.
appears, yes.
To call Jesus Son of God requires the nature of God to have been completely transformed into an ungodly nature. Without that, father-son relationship cannot take place.
Yes.
And there are other moral problems involved as well. You know, Christians do not believe in divorce. Many Christians, at least.
Roman Catholics.
That's what it is.
Yes.
Many Christians. I said many
Yes.
Christians. There are many Christians, among many Christians.
Yes.
And what happened when God fathered a son from Mary? What was his relationship with that woman? Was he a legal husband? And if not, what was the nature of the child? And if he is to be taken as husband and God himself got married to Mary, a human being, then without divorcing her, this woman was permitted to marry again. And it's a case of polyandry. A simple case of polyandry if you take things too literally, I mean.
Yes,
They should not be taken literally because that will be an insult to the very name of God in religion and the holy concepts we have. They should be understood metaphorically and should not be taken literally, please. Thank
Sir,
you.
there's the basic question I come to now. This was the question that came to my mind when you were.
Thank you.
Yes.
But
it's a
that's
short,
enough.
It's a short one, sir.
Because
please.
you know,
I will have no opportunity.
I have other appointments.
Sir,
So come again.
I'll be returning now to Karachi. I'm going already. And this
Come
was,
again to London, please. Or you can write your questions.
Sir, it's
Just
a
a minute. I can give you an answer.
Very small question.
Just a minute.
Sir.
The question may be very small. The
Yes,
answer may be very long.
Oh, really? You are
Unfortunately.
Yes.
So, you listen to me. I have other appointments to keep.
Right, sir.
Which I cannot waive off further.
Yes. I hope you pardon
I've
me.
already spent 10 minutes
sir.
extra
Yes.
in keeping my promise.
Yes.
So please
But I'm very grateful.
leave it at that, but I tell you a way of asking not only one question but many questions. You acquire a dish antenna when you reach Karachi.
Right, sir.
And when you write your answer questions to me,
Yes.
I will tell you exactly the time when I am going to appear on television and answer those questions.
Right, sir.
So sit before the television and I will be talking to you. Okay? Thank you.
Sir. Okay. Thank you very much.
Hazur, we have Mr. Yasmin Khan who wants to say just few words on behalf of the guest.
Okay, please.
No, Your Holiness is got some guests or some other appointments, so I would be very short and brief. The first thing that I want to say is that I regard it as a privilege to thank you on behalf of all of us for the time that Your Holiness has given. And to put it very briefly, I found Your Holiness answers were not only sensitively dealt with, but Your Holiness was, above all, not at all economical. Even the people who want to prolong the session, you found time to. I want to thank you once again, and it's been a pleasure. Although, of course, there were very other things I want to talk about your role, and I think it is a privilege to have you here in this country when Islam is under attack from various other reasons, for political reasons. And your version of true Islam, it is a great honor, and this is coming from one that I'm not an Ahmadi. So I want you to know. I'm not Ahmadi, but I do appreciate, I know where the genuine gem lies. I thank you once again, and may you live long.
I must assure you that despite being not an Ahmadi, you speak like Ahmadis.
Well, the point is that we have got something in common, that I am a seeker after the truth, and I believe that the Ahmadis are getting nearer to it. And as regard to the other, our friend was saying it, I might say that what is happening in Pakistan and the other is, they that sow the wind shall reap the whirlwind, and they are reaping the whirlwind.
Unfortunately.
Thank you so much.
Now, I must express my gratitude to all of you. It was a very pleasurable evening I spent with you. It was a spiritual feast for me. All of you have been behaving so perfectly, so decently, and I must compliment the choice of the Ahmadis who have brought you. And they must have applied some selection, I suppose. So thank you so much for coming, finding time to be with us. And these sorts of meetings are not only productive academically, but they promote the good values in souls. And they somehow improve the quality of the participants, all together. So I hope we have all benefited. I don't say, as the British English say, the player is entirely mine, because it will be unfair to appropriate the entire player. I know you have also had some share of player, but I have had enough, no, not enough, but a very strong sense of achievement and benefit I drew from this meeting this evening in your company. Allah bless you. Thank you so much. I take leave.